All right, we can go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Hewins. I work in the admissions office at RISD. Thank you for joining us for our online open house. This session will be for MFA printmaking. With me today, I have Megan Foster, who is the GPD for the department.
All right, I'll take it over. And I brought Fonz Vincencio, who is a first-year graduate student. So I thought what I would do is share my screen and just show you a little bit of the curriculum, and then a little bit of work that's take you through the tour of the studios, show you a bit of work that's being made in the studios and some of the thesis shows. And then I thought Fonz could give you sort of 5 minutes about, maybe why he chose RISD and a few images of his work, and then we could just do a general Q&A. So I was saying, I'm kind of, I want to say hi, Fonz there. I was saying I left my computer at home, so give me a sec. I mastered, Zoom on my iPad today, I think. Let's see how this goes. 1 second. All right. And apparently it doesn't let me click through, it scrolls, so bear with me, it wasn't letting me click. So again, this is the MFA program, which is hosted. We have several, our main sort of, place on campus is Benson Hall on Benefit Street. And this is where we have, lithography on the first floor, lithography and relief. And then on the second floor, it's Intaglio, some senior studios. And on the third floor, it's silkscreen and more senior studios. So I know a lot of people come from sort of a one-room schoolhouse, but we have a giant house. Plus we have another studio that has a papermaking studio, a letterpress studio, and a grad facility, which you'll see. Here is the curriculum. We currently we're a little offset due to COVID. So our typical class size is 12 to 14. So we usually have 6 to 7 first years and 6 to 7 second years. And we just last year had a giant class of 9 graduated because some people took off, but we literally only have 14 studios total. So when it gets offset, we kind of can't offset with a giant class because we're very contingent on space. So this year we have 6 first years, so we should be getting back to our 6 and 7. So we're looking for 6 to 7 candidates for next year. You can just see the basic sort of curriculum for first year. Every semester during your 2 years here, you'll take a graduate printmaking course. So you'll see graduate printmaking 1, 2, 3, and 4 for the 2 years. And then outside of that, and that's your main core kind of class where, we help you kind of develop as an artist. You might be taking all of these different electives, learning these new techniques, taking these different liberal arts courses, and this is where we help you kind of try to bring all of that back together each semester and formulate who you are as an artist. And the only studio course we require you to take is a grad printmaking projects class, and that's with the first year painters. And we try to do that as kind of a, break down the wall between departments and have like a interdisciplinary component just to sort of, break down and sort of open up the community for you, because we all share the same space in Fletcher. And it's a really great class, I think, where people have a lot of different backgrounds come to one place and challenge each other in good ways and bad. The painters are always like struggling with printmaking, and then the printmakers are always kind of wanting the next level, but we find this good mesh in the middle, which is a fun class. So outside of those, the 4 graduate printmaking studios and that 1 class, you have 2 liberal arts classes. And then you can choose whatever you want. We help you kind of select, where we have a really hands-on sort of just advising, and we'll help you select programs that get you the skills that you need, or complement the classes or skills that you already have, or develop the work that you're making. Just going to take you quickly through the shops. Henry's popping in. So yeah, this is the Intaglio shop that's on the 2nd floor. Just studio, yes, yeah. This is inside the lithography relief studio. Tina, actually, there's a one of our faculty likes to name all the presses. I haven't updated that. This is an older photo, but Tina's now at Takash Press. I'm not sure of Tina's new name. We recently updated all our stone storage. We have an amazing collection of stones, big, small. Screen printing is probably one of our most popular, crowded, lively studios. We have, I think, 8 individual vacuum table stations and then a large one-arm sort of table. Here's our other 3 places. I think it fits. It doesn't look like it fits super well on my screen. I hope it all fits in yours. We have a tech lab where we have a laser cutter and a large format printer, and you have kind of free reign access to all of them. We have a letterpress shop with a Vandercook press, and we have a paper making studio. These are all, the tech lab is in Benson Hall. The other ones are in other buildings. And then this is the CIT shop, which is downtown where the graduate studios are. And this shop is just for the graduate printmakers. And, you know, I was sort of doing a practice run with a student today to get my iPad up and running. And she's like, oh, are you going to mention that this is a 24-hour access shop that you don't actually have 24-hour access to? But this is, and the swipe access will be fixed. But this is your shop. The main Benson Hall building closes at 11 or midnight, depending on the night. I think it's 11 on the weekends and midnight during the week. But this shop you can use 24 hours a day, and it's sort of just adjacent to your individual studios, which we'll go into next. Another couple glimpses. There's a wood shop outside. And this is the Fletcher building. So this is a bit downtown, but this is where all of the fine arts individual studio spaces are. So, you know, you're sharing this building with sculpture students, painting students, glass students, ceramics, photo, you know, pretty much all. And then there's one digital plus media group that's in there, but, you know, we are sort of departmental in terms of like when you come in, but it's very interdisciplinary in terms of the building. And, you know, depending on the classes you take, you kind of meet a lot of people and share a lot of ideas in this one space. So the building to the right, that sort of wider building that's just kind of behind Fletcher Studio, that's where the print shop for the 24-hour access shop is for grad students. Here's a crit space. We kind of have bigger crits midterm and final where we reserve rooms like this. There's another smaller room, so you can kind of have a clean space for your work. These are typical studios for first years and second years. The larger one is a bigger one for second years. First years, I would say it's kind of typical to the space on the left. And then I'm just going to show you some work just to get an idea of, I think RISD has a reputation of being very traditional in terms of its technique, but it's, you know, which we do teach a really strong foundation. If you don't have all of the printmaking skills you like, you'll be able to kind of hone in and get the skills that you don't have, or hone in on the ones that you kind of want to refine. But also we have a lot of like kind of classes that just kind of push the boundaries of printmaking and allow you to sort of experiment and make stuff that aren't really, you know, traditional kind of prints with borders. And, you know, we push scale, we push the material. There's a student who basically had her own parchment and, you know, sanded these down religiously, made this beautiful piece. And, you know, I'll get into those details later. We print on a lot of non-traditional materials. Here's a student, Maxime. He's now teaches some classes here once in a while, but he's printing with marble dust on these fabricated, machine-made marble slabs. Once in a while, every other year, maybe we teach a wallpaper class. We haven't done it in a bit, so it might be coming around again. This is a second-year student, Kate, right now, who is very, you know, she's kind of very much expanded. You know, she only made sort of small things, and she really pushed herself and made a lot of big projects in the last year or two with small stuff. Again, I think our students are very much influenced by papermaking. We teach a class here called Installation in Contemporary Print Media, where we kind of challenge the boundaries of, you know, how you're showing it, where you're showing it. Work from those classes. And then these are a few from the thesis show. And during COVID, we had this really amazing space. Just due to COVID, I think the we usually use this convention center, and it was booked. And we had, I'm blanking on the name of it. But anyway, it was a really professional museum kind of quality space. And so these are some of the images from that year. And then most other years, we rent this convention center in downtown Providence, where it's sort of art fair-esque, but it's a fun kind of communal, all the departments put work in it. Here's some pictures from last year's show at the convention center. Yeah, if you could look closely at these, you know, I think students make really experimental pieces in the end, but you know, this is all hand printed. A lot of the pieces on the left, she's using spatulas and inking the spatula up and creating her own repeats, and a lot of the work has printmaking still in its blood. It's Stephen who graduated last year. This piece kind of was an oil can that would breathe on its own, but has all of these printed soft sculptures. A lot of students make thesis books, and they're actually handmade books, and they get into the special collections in the library, which is a really wonderful opportunity to be part of that collection. And here's a couple images. So, you know, some departments just have a PDF required, and there are still a few in the fine arts, photo, glass, ceramics, printmaking, where we still have you make, you know, an actual bound book. It doesn't have to be this elaborate, but if you have interest in book arts, you can really push it. And you know, your thesis can be just a simple abstract in this amazing, you know, art object in the end to go with, you know, a piece that's in the convention center. We have an additions program where we invite an artist and we make a professional print project with them. It runs as a class, and so you get credit to make a project. These are the artists that we've done some examples in the past. Rico Gatson was the last one. We haven't done one since COVID, just due to, you know, scheduling, but we're hoping to get one on the roster soon. So Rico was invited. And basically when we're not making Rico's project, we go to Boston and New York and look at professional print shops. So it's kind of the professional side of printmaking. Dasha Shishkin came. And then here is just a list of some recent visiting artists that we had. And one more, you know, where are they now? I think, you know, our RISD students end up everywhere. I think RISD students, they have a reputation of being quite skillful. And, you know, people know that, you know, when they hire you, you can teach the classes, you can run the shops, you can, you know, be an amazing master printer. And I think people have had a lot of success with different residencies. So just put in a few examples, and I think that's everything I have on my end. So I'm going to stop sharing and let Fonz give a few comments, and then we'll do a Q&A.
Okay, cool. So am I just saying like why I chose the program and like what factored in my decision about everything?
Sounds good. Maybe where you're from.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm from Maryland, like a little bit outside of Baltimore, like 30 minutes outside of Baltimore, 30 minutes outside of DC. So like the in-between spot. And I visited Providence, but I was also going to other schools to visit. And the other cities that I went to, I really didn't, I just didn't like the cities I was in. And then when I visited Providence, and I remember I did the studio visit with you, Megan, and Ross, and then I was listening to what you were saying about the, it was the woman who did the, she's standing with her own parchment paper and everything, but we were in there, and then you mentioned to her, it was like, well, I think you could do more. And I remember being in the visit and then going to other people's critiques and then just hearing you always like pushing people to do more. And then when I first met Andrew too, I was just, it was kind of it was nice to talk to someone who was able to understand where I was coming from, and he also understood that I wasn't really at the time I wasn't doing full traditional printmaking. I was doing painting for a little bit before I applied here, but I knew Andrew and Megan could both get me to push myself further in printmaking more than what I was doing before. Because I went to school during COVID and then I didn't have access to the shop for 2 years. So I was doing a lot of painting and drawing. And then when I've gotten here, I've been able to I've gotten more into screen print, which I didn't like at all. Like, so Megan really pushed me to do new mediums. And I come from a lithography background, stone litho. And I feel like RISD just has the right resources. And also the library system too is really great, and museum access. We have like access to see prints. And if you go onto the museum's website, you can just select the prints that you like, and you can personally like see those prints there. And honestly, the only other school I think that's like that would probably be Chicago SAIC, but it was just nice to know that certain things were in the school, and you have free museum access. So there's a lot of opportunities. You also have access to Brown's libraries too. So it's about like making what you want from RISD, but you also have access to Brown University too. So I think that's a really big plus. I can share artwork too, if so. Some recent things that I've been working on. Sure. 1 second, I have to give it permission to share. Let's see.
Do you have permission to share? You should, yeah.
Yeah, I do. Okay, cool. So I have a folder. So this is all mostly recent work that I've been doing here. Can you see my screen, Megan? Okay, so this project is from the grad print projects class with the painters. And so I have 2 versions of this project. And then this is a screen print, but what I'm mostly really interested in now is I blew this project, or I blew this image up at least about 4 times the size. So now it's this size. And I would have never done this before, but like Megan, I had the confidence that people here would help me figure it out. And I did try to take this on by myself, but like after talking to Megan, she was like, well, no, I can actually help you get this better and get the registration proper and right. So that makes me really excited. So yeah, this is so on paper, then I went to campus with it, but I think it's fun, and I would have never thought I would have done that, because I tell a lot of people that I really do not like screen printing, but I'm trying to challenge myself here. And I think that like with the cohort that I'm in, we all push each other to do something different. Here's an intaglio print that I've been working on all semester. I'm also the TA in Megan's intaglio class. So I haven't done intaglio in years, but I'm learning with the students as I'm going along, and just has to bring out some more lights and everything like that. But yeah, aquatint, it's fun. And then this is more studio thing. So I usually draw on film and then expose that for photolithography. But now while I'm here, and now since I am on the screen printing kick, and I talked to Megan about step-to-step exposure in screen printing to see if we can bring out the subtle grays, because I know in photolitho we can like pretty much get everything on there, but I'm not going to have access to photolitho equipment all the time, and screen printing is more accessible. So it's about finding what I can use after I graduate to keep my work going. And another film drawing in the studio. And then, yeah, just to see, same thing. See if I can expose it to screen. And then this is completely different. So this is from Johnny's class. What's this class called? Actually, is it like alternative print practices?
Yeah.
So this class is interesting because like the image doesn't matter. You're just trying to figure out like the physicality of the copper, or you can make an image if you want, or print the plate if you want. But for me in this class, I'm experimenting more with the property of copper plates. And what the actual matrix can look like. But I've been trying to get the colors to come out more like the orange and green, and then the iridescence in this. So this class is more about objects than the actual image in a copper plate. But this is a really fun class too. I think it's just more experimentation and allows you to push yourself and not really be so hard on yourself as a printmaker. It allows you to let go in a way, because I feel like we want to control almost everything that we do. So this is a nice break from it all. And yeah, I think that's all I have for these images. I can show, like, because you mentioned the laser engraver. So here's some laser engraved etchings right here. This one on the left was the first one I gave to Johnny, and then my file wasn't precisely clean. So what we see on the bottom right, it's like I took a photo from my sketchbook, but that's the sketchbook texture, and the laser is able to actually pick all of that up. So I was really surprised with that. So you can tweak your images enough to, like, you know, see what can the laser actually pick up and what can it pick up. And then, yeah, so these are fun. And they're all in plexiglass, so they also allow you to do monoprints on them as well. So there's just more you can do with the laser than on a copper plate, and it's just a little bit faster. But working with both copper and laser, you know, you bounce the ideas off of each other. And yeah, that's all the images. But if you have any questions about anything, feel free to ask. And then I'm going to stop sharing my screen now.
Now we can just do an open Q&A, but I want to mention, you know, when Fonz first got here in his studio, he was like, is it all right if I'm like making some work that's not prints in my studio? And I remember being like,
yeah.
I'm like, you know, of course we want you to keep making prints while you're at RISD, and you know, we hope to put you out in the world, like, with RISD's reputation and to kind of push printmaking. But you know, also it's a holistic, you know, approach in your studio of like all of the stuff you're doing. Like you might be making sculptures alongside of your prints. You might be making these amazing, beautiful Mylar drawings, which is, you know, those are actually, you know, works on Mylar, and in a studio, they're meant to be works on Mylar and not prints. But so, you know, I think that's what the grad printmaking 1, 2, 3, 4 is like. That's just taking everything, you know, your whole body of work. And, you know, some people come out making, you know, sculptures or videos that project their prints, but yes, but we do a lot of very traditional approaches and then very experimental approaches too. So
yeah, I try to give like a good mix, but I think Johnny's class is like the most experimental. Yeah,
totally.
Oh, also too, the Fletcher building itself is nice because you can go different levels and talk to painters or photographers, like just people you're running into, and just ask, like, can I go check out your studio? And then you just network within the Fletcher building with other grad students. So you can build your community that way, which is nice.
Cool, thanks, Fonz. So we can type in some questions too, but if you want to ask some questions live, we can, you know, we can respond to some of those as well. Let's see, the one.
We can ask them out loud, so it's conversational as well.
Cool. You want to read them?
Yep, you got it.
Thanks.
I'll do that. You mentioned studio spaces. Can you elaborate? Does every individual get their own space, or do you have to rent it, or is it included?
It's totally additional fees. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's you know, you do get your bill and you have random, you know, tech fee and this fee, but no, your studio is yours for 2 years. Like you have it during the summer, you have it during the holidays. Like I literally don't think it even closes on major holidays if you're around. You have swipe access on the doors. But the first year, they're pretty like cubicles of 4, and you saw there was like a wall partition between 2 studios. And there's a door that closes off, I think, 4 studios. And then second year, we have I campaign and fight every year. I think we're getting more and more big studios each year. So we try to get the majority of second years a big studio, but sometimes that comes down to a lottery for the, you know, the biggest studios on second year, but it's getting better every year for getting more and more big studios. But yes, they're 24-hour access, you know, for your entire time here, summer.
You also get flat files too.
Yes, you get flat files in your studios.
Great. All right, next question. Could you explain about teaching assistant opportunities?
As Fonz mentioned, he is my TA for the Introduction to Intaglio class, and your assistantship. So should you get into RISD, you'll get a financial sort of award that's based on your FAFSA, and then everybody gets a teaching assistantship. So generally that's, I think it's $3,000 a semester, $2,500 a semester, 2,500, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're assigned to a faculty member based on your skills, and also based on like everybody else's schedules. So I, as the grad program director, have like a little puzzle. Everybody registers for classes, and then I find who kind of fits with who in terms of like your skill set. And so each semester, your fall and your spring of your first year, you get assigned to a faculty member to be a teaching assistant, and then during your second year, you TA in the fall, and then you teach your own class during the winter session should you have successfully TA'd the previous year. So we say that because, if someone really can't handle their own class, but there has been rare cases where we have not allowed somebody teach their own class because we're small enough. We only have 6 students, so we can provide a class for everybody during winter session. So you get paid a little bit more, and then you get to be an instructor of record and hold your own class at RISD, which is a really amazing opportunity during winter session of your second year. If you don't want to teach, that's fine too. Then your teaching assistantship, your second year will be first fall and spring as well again.
That's great. Thank you. All right. This person's curious about what will be given versus what we need to know and purchase, what we need to purchase. Copper plating, litho, aluminum plates, screens, etc.
I'll give a quick blanket one, but I think Fonz can probably attest. So we're pretty generous once you're in here. If you need something, as a grad student, you pay a lot. We know the lab fees are high. So, if you in your lab fees, you are generally supplied with enough material, like large screens, large enough screens, depending on the class. You get a pretty big sheet of copper if you're taking like an advanced alternatives class or an introduction to Intaglio class. But then if you need something, like Fonz pretty much goes downstairs probably every time I see you each week.
Yeah, you can just ask. Like if you ask, like don't be afraid to ask people. And then because you ordered the mesotent the pole, and like I just needed to ask.
Yeah,
but
I feel like it's a little bit different this year, but there are opportunities to apply for materials. But also, like I said, in the department, we try to, within reason, get you what you need, either if it's a special tool or extra material. But of course, in every class, it's going to be specialized to whatever project that you're making. So I think things like paper and stuff like that, or random materials and fabric and different color ink, that's mostly on you. But in terms of plates and screens and tools, we get you kind of what you need.
That's great. This is a question from earlier. What kind of backgrounds do grad students come from? This particular person has this textiles background.
As a textiles background?
Yep.
Yeah. I think Fonz has a very traditional, like thorough painting, printmaking background, right?
But wasn't he was interior design before, right?
Yeah.
So it's a good mix. I don't think you need to be strictly print.
No, I think the majority of our students probably have a BA and have taken some arts. Like they don't necessarily have a BFA. A lot of, like I would say a good portion don't necessarily have a BFA. And if they don't, they've had some time making stuff. Like maybe they did a postbac program. Maybe they've just had an independent studio. And it's really, first and foremost, the committee. We usually have a committee of about 5 faculty that review the applications, and we don't look at any of the paperwork. Like we literally look at the portfolios. And then if I'm interested in the work, then I start going through and I read the recommendations. I read like what classes did you take, where'd you come from? But first and foremost, really we look at pictures for me, and the majority of the committee feels the same way. So, you could have nothing as a background in arts and make an amazing portfolio, and you'll still have a pretty amazing chance of getting in. So happy to review if you share a link, if you have questions like that, it's not ready or whatever, stuff like that.
That's great. This is for an application question. Is it better to show a range of technical ability in printmaking, or to show a cohesive body of work that is mixed media?
It doesn't necessarily have to be mixed media, but the latter, I would say. more about the cohesive kind of, we want to know what you want. Why do you want to be an artist? You know, like what are you sort of going after to sort of create your body of work? What's, you know, kind of the focus, the content. I think that should be the predominant, like, kind of body of the work. Like, I want to like see that. And then of course, like, yeah, we want to see that you're technically, you know, skillful, because you have to help in our classes. You know, we want to give you a class to teach. That, you know, we still like need people to have, you know, skills, but really we just want to know who you are as an artist, like, you know, what you want to do, like beyond RISD kind of, but you don't need to know that, but you know, we want to make you as an artist. I feel like at the end, I know it says like whatever 18 to 20 or 15 to 20 slides or images. I would rather see 15 that showed a strong, cohesive, conceptual body of work than like throw in 5 more that says, and I can also do woodcut, and I can also do etching, I can also do, you know, ceramics. Cool. But, you know, try to keep it focused.
Great. This is a good question. Do students use the Nature Lab as part of their research study?
Fonz, have you been here long enough to answer that a little bit, or?
I haven't been. I went into the Nature Lab beginning of the year, but honestly, I've gone more into the Fleet Library, and then the Athenaeum also, just to check out what they have. But yeah, you can go to the Nature Lab anytime you want and just walk in there, and the people in there are nice. They know, like, so. But yeah.
There's amazing microscopes. I mean, it depends on, it's work specific, really. We have, you know, students that we have a second year this year who prints a lot of roadkill, shall we say, setup, and they pretty much shellac, like, you know, found carcasses, and they took it to the microscope, and they did these really zoomed in, amazing high resolution photos and turned them into polymer gravures, and did some mezzotint prints from them too. So, you know, it's really student specific, but the access is there. There's hours every day of the week, Saturday, Sunday too.
That's great. And I just put a link in the chat to we're doing a webinar on Thursday with the staff from the Nature Lab. So that's a great opportunity to see the resources that are available to you to come to RISD. All right, let's see here. Next question. I think we're allowed to only apply to one MFA department. Correct. You can only apply to one program. So if our practice is between multiple mediums like sculpture and textiles, do you want to see that on the applications, or do you only want to see printmaking in the application? You kind of already answered this a little bit, but.
I think talk about it, like in the statement, you know, talk about that, you know, duality, or how, you know, being in this department and still kind of having a bridge to the other department. I think, you know, it's just, we don't want to like be like, should they have been sculpture and not printmaking? Like, you know, if you think that we might think that looking at the work, just, you know, kind of hit the nail on the head for us and just tell us why. I sat on a lot of admissions committees, not just here as well. And I know that, you know, we've certainly like looked at it and be like, you know what, we like this person, we know they're recommenders. Like maybe we should say this person should apply. I don't know if Jen, if we've had this here, but have there been people that are like, you know what, this one really should be sculpture. Can we pass it off?
Once in a blue moon, yes.
Yeah,
it does happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that other places we've done that, and you know, they've had good odds and even gotten in other places. But I think just be upfront. Talk to me ahead of time. Like call me up. Like, you know, come for a visit. Let's talk about it before we even review your application, so that when we're looking at it, somebody can better articulate for you. Because literally, like honestly, it's what we see first. Everybody just clicks through, and we're like, why are these all sculptures? You know. And if we're like questioning, like, why are these all sculptures, or why are these all textiles? We'll go to the statement and be like, you know, how can we better understand why this artist applied to printmaking?
Great. This is a more broad question, but what are the housing opportunities there for grad students? I'm not sure if you want to help answer that, but I can also answer it as well.
Yeah, I was just say start looking early, and then because you're also competing with Brown University students, so like, oh, and Johnson and Wales students. Like, there's a bunch of colleges here, so the earlier you get on it, the better. But the pricing for rent around here, it really depends on what you're looking at. But I don't know if I should get into numbers, but yeah, just look early. Don't wait for it, because the longer you wait, But there is grad like dorm opportunities as well, I believe. I know 2 people, grad students living in the dorm, so there's that.
Yep. Yep, there is a limited number of grad housing. It's in the 15 West building. But I think most grad students do live off campus. So, and Providence is cheaper than Boston and New York. So if you're looking.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I rented a place for a bit too, and it's competitive, but there's stuff that turns over all the time. Like, don't be like, oh man, I didn't get something, but you have to be on it. Like, I remember just this place I really wanted, and I was in the shower and I missed the call, and she was like, gave away already. Like, I was working with a real estate. I'm like, what? You know?
No
So
way.
it's just, you have to kind of, sadly, if you're not around and you're trying to do it remotely, you gotta just have to be like doing it for, you know, a semester and say yes.
All right. Okay. What percentage of grad students get financial aid, and up to how much is covered? And is there a merit-based aid, or is it based on need?
You know, it's based on need. It's based on FAFSA, and then we've had a really great, and Jen, you can better maybe articulate this too. Like, I guess this started last year. Like this, if you don't apply for FAFSA, especially like specifically international students or people that don't, like there's a financial just information sheet that you can fill out. So, you know, do you know the number of what was the percentage of need? I mean, percentage that was given out last year? Every student got 30 blah 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 percent. Like, I can't know off the top of my head.
I don't recall, and it does vary from year to year, because the tuition, you know, due to like inflation and stuff, does increase slightly from year to year. So what the rate is, it varies, but everybody will get a fellowship of some amount. And what was I going to say to that? It typically doesn't cover the full cost of attendance. But even international students are eligible for a fellowship and an assistantship as well. So when you do start an application, the form that Megan referenced will be in your applicant portal. So that will be very important for you to fill out. It gives us a better understanding of your financial background. So yeah, you'll want to fill that out. And there's other opportunities to work on campus as well, and that international students can do that too. So there's ways to make it work.
Yeah, I feel like over the last 3 or 4 years of being, I've come in waves. I've done GPD, then I had a couple of years off, and now I'm GPD on my 3rd year again. I think this is my 5th year as GPD, but it's only gone up every year, which has been nice to see. And I think there's been more money. I know every year you're like, oh, I still wish we had more, but I'm like, it's more than we've had. It's still like, it's still
It
going.
really is.
And even there's a current first year here that she was surprised at how much we ended up giving her, because she had a friend that went here 2 years ago, and she was like, you know, and that was high. I remember who it was. And I was like, yeah, that was the high 2 years ago, but it has been, we've been trying, you know, to get more funding to help out. So it's getting better. It's still, of course, never great, but getting better.
Okay. Are there grants that students can apply to for research opportunities? Do you offer abroad programs or solely on campus?
We have winter session, which is great. And, you know, you can look on the winter session page and see what the classes that are offered this year. I know there's one to South Africa. I don't think the Japan one's not going in our area, but there's usually like, what, 6 to 8 classes that travel each winter session. There's usually 3 or 4 in the summer. During winter session, we have one paid, it's a fellowship put on by a student, a family of a student who passed away a long time ago. And so we fund one fully funded trip for a graduate student during winter session. And it's an application process. And then also when you graduate, we have the West Bayview Fellowship, which is an award for $8,000 to travel after you graduate. And then, so that's 2 that are total gifts off the top. And then there's also Graduate Commons grants, which you can apply for in between your 2 years and the year that you're leaving. So, and they range from like, I think 3,500, 5,007, depending if you're a collective, collaborative group or just an individual applying for something. Wait, there's the Summerson one now. There are actually quite a lot that if you're, and printmaking's been very lucky to get one probably every year or two every year. So it's such a small group. You know, basically the Grad Commons grants, I want to say it's a little bit more this year, but it's a pool of $90,000, and then there's a committee that reviews, and it's like you asked for $3,000 to do this trip, someone asked for $5,000 to do this trip, but it's throughout all of the divisions. So you can take a course that's already pre-designed, or you can kind of design your own research trip. So many options.
Great. This is a printmaking question. Do you offer both Western and Eastern paper making style?
Yes. Are you taking that class, Fons? No.
No, but Tony is, and then so it's mostly in the beginning. I think it's like Eastern paper, and then
Mostly Eastern.
it's mostly Eastern, but the professor seems pretty open if you do your own like research and you come at him with like, oh, I want to learn this, and he'll let you do that. Like Tony's like traditional Mexican paper now. That wasn't a part of the course, but the professor's like, but he had all the research and all like the videos and everything. So now it's like a part of his paper making work. So it's cool.
Yeah, we do. It's very kind of, I think, comes from an Eastern approach, but I think towards the end of the semester, it gets a little more experimental and open.
Great. All right. We have one more question. Feel free, we still have some more time, so feel free to put your questions in. But this is just a general question. What is the city life like in Providence? Are there any cool spots that you guys enjoy?
We'll let Fons answer that one and start.
I mean, as a grad student, I guess like if you like bars, there's a lot of cool bars over here. There's a lot of great restaurants. Like doesn't Providence have the CIA, like Culinary Institute of America? So there's a lot of great chefs over here. So I think what I've been trying to do is find the best food spots and then like rank them for my own system. But there's cool bars, and then outside of Providence, if you have a car, you can drive to Massachusetts because it's really close. So, but Providence itself it's fairly small from what I've discovered. Like to get from Fletcher to Benson is probably like a 10-15 minute walk, maybe like a 10-minute walk. So, but there are cool, like I like the food. The food's cool here.
I feel like, yeah, more and more students tell me that there's a lot of like just music and shows too that, you know, there's
a lot of people go to Boston too for concerts and everything. Yeah, I haven't been to Boston yet, but I want to go. So
I was gonna say, Jen, you should answer this too, being kind of a more, I live in New York, so and I come Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and everything in the world is closed on Monday and Tuesday, and it annoys me in Providence. Yeah. But so that's why I thought, and Jen, you'd be a better kind of scope on that. But
yeah, I mean, I think one of the definite perks of Providence and the RISD campus, so the train station's literally a 10-15 minute walk from campus, and it's a 50 train ride to Boston. You take the commuter rail, it's super cheap. I think get like a student discount too, or like it's a 3-hour train ride to New York. So you're really close to everything. And then we do have public transit, the RIPTA bus, which is free for students, and you can take that anywhere in the state of Rhode Island. And I mean, we have 4 seasons here, so you get to experience that. Want to make sure you bring a nice warm coat. Yeah.
Yes. I always find it's like, you know, 10 to 15 degrees colder here than New York. And New York's cold.
Yeah. So
the water, the ocean state.
Lots of beaches.
Yeah.
Lots of good seafood.
Very true.
All right. As you mentioned before, how do you make an appointment to chat with you to discuss the program and portfolio further? Does that have to be in person or can it be on Zoom?
We can do Zoom. I'm here Monday through Wednesday generally, but the department head, he is always welcome to meet you on a Thursday or Friday, or I can set you up with some grad students. But Zoom, just reach out. I'll type my email in the chat.
That's great. And admissions will be having more webinars, application prep webinars. We have some more online portfolio review sessions. So you want to check out all those leading up to the application deadline on January 5th. But you have time.
And we have the open house on Friday if you're close by.
Correct. Yep. Great. 10 minutes left. Any more questions? And of course, this isn't the last opportunity. Megan put her email address in there. So if you think of something after this, don't hesitate to reach out to her or admissions for application questions. We're happy to answer those. And the session is recorded. So if you want to refer to it later, if you email me at admissions@risd.edu, I can share the link to that recording. Oh, we have one question that did slip in. I like to work on a very large scale. Is there any space available for students working larger than a private studio space?
What are we talking large scale?
Mhm.
I mean, the studios, the second year ones are larger than the first years, but is this like a regular studio practice large scale or a project base?
Feel free to elaborate on your question in the Q&A. I can just say it back. Around 8 feet.
Yeah, I mean, the studio wall should handle that.
Yeah, and I think most of the painters here, like when they don't stretch, or I don't know if you're stretching on canvas or things like that, but I feel like my studio walls are like 10, 12 feet long. There's space to make it work. I feel like it, because you also have really high ceilings in here too. So that's a good thing. But if you are working on canvas or something like that, a lot of the painters, they stretch in the crit room or they do things in the crit room because that's like the most space we have in the building. So I feel like you can make it work. It's just like finding the right area for you.
Another question, can students take classes or use other medium shops and facilities like ceramics and sculpture?
Sorry about that. I had an emergency text. Could
Oh,
you
no,
repeat?
it's fine. No problem. Can students take classes or use other medium shops and facilities like ceramics and sculpture?
Once you take a class in that area, you pretty much can make a relationship with a faculty member or the tech and do independent studies. But to get your foot in the door or the door, it usually takes taking a class. But not always. I have to say, we just got a first year in to use the dark room to do some traditional sort of dark room developing with just making a relationship with the tech and proving that they have experience in the dark room. So it all kind of depends on the facility and the safety of the equipment that you're requesting to use.
Great. We get that question a lot in all areas, all programs.
And there is conversation in the grad program, directors and group and stuff of, can we create like I don't know, 1.5 credit course just to like get you access and training on a facility, as opposed to like, even if you came in here and you're like, you've never used the exposure unit, you've never used the washout, like it's kind of, every shop is different. So it's, safety concerns.
And we also have co-works as well. That's another resource that people can do some experimentation there. I'll drop the link in the chat so you can see the types of resources that are at co-works.
Yeah, co-works was kind of started as kind of a maker's lab, and now it's pretty access to everyone. At first, I think it was just grad students, and then now it's open to everyone. There's laser cutters, vinyl cutters, UV printers, vacuum form molds.
Right. Let's see here. You mentioned that the portfolio is the most important. How important are the recommenders and also academic part of the application, like undergrad class choices and GPA? I will just add that we don't have a minimum GPA requirement across the board. So,
as I was mentioning before, we really first look at your portfolio. And then I think if we're questioning a student, if we love the work, we're not even gonna question, you didn't take any art related courses. But I feel like if we're okay, we like the portfolio, how do we think they'll fit in at RISD? And we see that you've got all, let's just say C's and D's in your classes, we're gonna be are they gonna be able to handle the rigor of the program here? So that might be something that we'll look at or, question when it comes down to making a final decision. But I think that you should like have your recommenders, like everyone has a rough patch, like maybe you had a rough semester or you had a rough go in a whatever particular part of your life at that time. Like if you can either like articulate what that little bump in the road is without, we don't need your whole story, and we don't want to have you give details that you're not comfortable sharing, but just that we have an understanding that like, okay, that was a rough period. This is, I'm in a good place and I'm ready for the rigor, because it's a rigorous, program here, and it demands a lot of work, and it's a 12, and most people are coming from a school that's 15 weeks, where 12 weeks with a 13-week being the exam, it goes by really fast. Like, you kind of almost, everyone's on this like post midterm slump right now, but we're like, you know what, you've only got 3 weeks left.
Yeah.
Move it along. So, and Fonz, maybe you want to speak to that for a minute, but so,
yeah, I guess I will say the rigor is a lot, because you're also with the other people in your cohort and everyone's working just as intense. And I guess it's in the air of RISD, like people, like you can just feel it. Everyone's on top of things. So you're kind of like trying to stay on top of things with that too. And then it's really easy to lose track of time here, because you're in your studio constantly, and like if you're a disciplined person, you're on top of your scheduling. Like make sure you keep a calendar, because you think a lot of time has gone by, but it could only be like less than a month. So that's what threw me off in the beginning. And I had to talk to Andrew, and he was like, it's only been 4 weeks. And I was like, wow, thank you for the perspective. Yeah.
But then that's also a third of the semester.
Yeah, the third of the semester. And so, yeah.
So again, that's like where, if we see like things like that from your recommenders or your transcripts and stuff, but if they're all good and your portfolio is good, it's fine, but just try to emphasize if there are bumps.
And Fonz, you kind of spoke to this, but how is the student life balance with the rigorous classwork? Is it studio schoolwork all the time, or do you have time for yourself and personal time?
So I make time for myself and personal time. So what I end up doing is like I'll go to the studio and then I work it with my schedule. So like Wednesday is my TA day, but I also monitor and screen printing. So I use that time to do work for intaglio plates. And so I just manage my weeks. And then on the weekends, usually like Friday, people are trying to unwind down anyway. So it's like more of a chill day. But I'm also a morning person. So I get in here in the morning time and then I work. And then at night, I'm able to leave at a reasonable time to go home and like make dinner. But then you have some people who are night owls and they just stay in the studio all night. But yeah, it depends on you. But there are people who, like I've talked to some people and they stop strictly at, I think Tim stops at 11 o'clock every night. He just stops, so.
And then there's Tony, who lets me know every other week that he's still locked out at 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah. But even
food.
He'll make time to make music still on the side. So it is about like finding time to do what keeps you sane and allows you to have fun and to unwind, like you're saying. So personal time is very important, and I've been trying to like stay on top of that.
That's great. Thank you, Fonz. I think that's a great place to end. We did get a great comment, and they're just saying thank you, Megan. Your slideshow was super helpful, and it was great to hear from Fonz. Definitely the best webinar yet.
Oh.
I agree.
Fonz, do you want to drop your email in just in case people have student questions, maybe?
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you, Fonz. That's great.
There aren't too many. I was like, if there's a million, I don't want to subject you to that, but we don't. Under 10 here.
Yeah, so feel free. Just put like in the subject, I was in the open house meeting or something like that. So I know. But yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Fonz. Thank you for joining us today. Everybody, thank you from wherever you are for joining us. And I look forward to seeing you at some of the other sessions coming up.
Thanks, Jen.
Have a great day. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.